Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer covering MaidProvider.ph's May 2026 operations. We're looking at their latest transparency report today, and what's really fascinating here is how transparency is treated as a strict operating discipline, rather than just some shiny marketing claim. In the household staffing industry, trust is absolutely everything, but usually trust is built by projecting this flawless track record. Well, MaidProvider.ph takes a totally different route. They actually open the books on everything, the successes, the shortfalls, and all the operational friction in between.
So, to get the full picture, we're going to cover 6 key areas. We'll start with their new reporting cadence, look at performance and shortfalls, highlight the pillars that held strong, document the hard truths, unpack their operations in Human Plus principle, and finally, look at why accountability beats perfection. Let's get right to it.
Now, this quote from Managing Director Amanda Sofra really hits the nail on the head. She says, "A record that leaves out the hard parts is not worth the trust it asks for." And honestly, that perfectly sets the tone for everything we're about to dive into. Owning the difficult realities builds so much more credibility than just pretending they don't exist. It's super easy to publish a report when things go perfectly, right? But doing it during a tough month, that takes real discipline.
Moving into Section 1, a new reporting cadence. Moving to full-month operational data. Previously, MaidProvider.ph was reporting in 2 to 3 week windows, but starting in May 2026, they shifted to their first full calendar month report. Why does this matter? Well, a full month gives us a much steadier, more complete operational picture. It provides a reliable baseline for comparison and smooths out that short-term volatility, giving us a genuine look at the actual health of the business.
On to Section 2, Performance and Shortfalls, Owning the Numbers. What's really refreshing about this part of the report is how they intentionally lead with their missed goals. They aren't burying the bad news in the fine print. They frame recovery exactly for what it is, and they're incredibly candid about where they still have work to do.
Let's talk about a key number, 72.5%. That is their new placement performance against their internal target. Now, to be fair, that's actually a solid recovery from the 63% they saw last period. That's nearly a 10-point jump. But as the report points out, it's still below their goal. They explicitly note that a recovery is not an arrival. By publishing this figure as is, they're fully acknowledging that being 27.5% short impacts revenue, client satisfaction, and deployment targets, and the work to close that gap is very much ongoing.
The crucial takeaway here is understanding the difference between these two pipelines. We just talked about placement, deploying staff to households sitting at 72.5%. But surprisingly, recruitment, which is sourcing the new applicants to fill those roles, hit almost the exact same shortfall, coming in at exactly 73% of its target. Both pipelines missed the mark. And that applicant shortfall directly limited their ability to hit client targets, causing fulfillment delays. Putting these facts side by side shows how interconnected they literally are. Simply put, you can't place household professionals you haven't sourced. Section 3 is Pillars that held strong. What worked in May 2026? Despite those shortfalls we just talked about, we definitely need to balance the sheet and look at the foundational elements that worked flawlessly. Because even when growth targets are missed, the core machinery of the service still has to deliver for the families and professionals who rely on it every single day. There's a quietly powerful metric in this report. Nearly 1 in 5 applicants this month, 19% to be exact, were returning professionals. These are folks actively choosing to come back to MaidProvider.ph instead of starting fresh at some other agency. That is a massive indicator that people return when they're treated well. It speaks directly to their worker protection standards, especially in an industry where retention and loyalty are notoriously tough to maintain. Beyond the returning applicants, the day-to-day operational machinery hummed along beautifully. Nearly all applicants cleared their clinical psychological screening at Manila Doctors Hospital on the very first pass. Plus, practical, hands-on training was completed seamlessly using structured, standardized checklists. And perhaps most importantly for families, 100% of eligible replacements were fulfilled. These operational wins proved that their 6-month protection standard worked exactly as designed, keeping households whole and resolving refund cases fairly, whether through a replacement or a prompt bank transfer.
Now we turn to Section 4, Documenting Hard Truths, Disclosures, and Neutral Facts. This is where that transparency discipline gets really serious. These incidents have to be presented without drama or speculation. It highlights why true transparency means naming the open questions and sticking strictly to the documented facts.
During this period, there was exactly one reported security concern. A client reported a concern about an item that had gone missing in the home. However, no formal report was advanced to authorities, and the client didn't pursue the matter further.
That means the matter did not proceed and no conclusion was ever reached. But MaidProvider.ph documents this plainly, exactly the same way they document a month with zero concerns. Because even though a reported concern isn't defining of guilt, it still happened. And their standard demands they disclose it to maintain absolute trust.
And that brings us to a really important point about risk. Screening absolutely reduces risk, but it can't eliminate it entirely. What MaidProvider.ph can control is their process. They continuously audit their security double lock system, which involves a national dual audit pulling from 18 regions alongside NBI biometrics, followed by that clinical psychological screening we mentioned. They audit this internally to make sure it's consistently applied for every single candidate every single time.
In another public disclosure, a client filed a complaint with the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, asking for a refund. Now, the crucial detail here is that MaidProvider.ph's records show the household professional actually remained on duty and services continued under the signed contract. They are responding directly within the DTI thread, providing all the factual service records, and the matter is currently under discussion toward an amicable resolution. Again, no drama, no defensiveness, just a neutral statement of the operational facts as they stand right now.
Let's look at Section 5, Operations and Human Plus, the invisible engine. All of this operational machinery behind the scenes is governed by MaidProvider.ph's Human Plus principle. This is the foundational idea that protection has to work equally for both the families and the professionals working in their homes. Let's see how they upgraded that invisible engine in May.
They systematically leveled up their infrastructure this month. First, they absorbed some team transitions, redistributing work to rebuild capacity and keep service speeds up. On the tech side, they adopted WhatsApp as their primary internal platform to really lock down data privacy. Financially, they standardized collections by moving corporate banking exclusively over to BDO Unibank. And finally, they carefully expanded their service reach into the Visayas and Mindanao on an arranged basis, making sure those stringent screening standards apply no matter where the service happens. On the regulatory side of things, MaidProvider.ph remains in excellent standing. They kept their DOL-PEA reporting consistently current, with daily record updates. To keep even tighter oversight over sensitive data, they are actually transitioning their Human Plus Care function to an on-site hub. They also worked with legal counsel to clarify a huge point. Family drivers are governed by the Civil Code, not the Kazumba High Law, which allows for highly accurate contract documentation. Lastly, they launched a public newsroom, giving the media a verified place for inquiries. They're openly addressing the public while keeping their administrative house in perfect order.
And that brings us to Section 6, Accountability over Perfection, the bottom line. We've reached the conclusion of the report, summarizing what you should really take away from this explainer. It all boils down to a disciplined approach to household staffing, prioritizing reality over some polished corporate facade.
This brilliantly illustrates the whole point. Ultimately, documenting a hard month as plainly and objectively as a clean one is the very definition of accountability. It means naming the open questions, protecting the households, and treating everyone fairly. It means accepting that, yeah, sometimes you miss a target, but you never hide the numbers. By prioritizing worker protection and factual transparency over a perfect 5-star facade, MaidProvider.ph is setting an incredibly high bar. The transparency here isn't a marketing stunt. It is documented, it is visible, and it is lived every single day. Seeing an organization voluntarily publish their shortfalls and unproven security reports right alongside their triumphs leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. Shouldn't this level of fearless accountability be the baseline for trust everywhere?